Welcome to Billy Fitzgerald Golf, and today we're going to work on the pitch shot from 50 yards off a tight lie. Students come to me all the time terrified of this shot. So I've got a few things that'll help you get over the anxiety that this shot gives a lot of people. One is your setup, one is how your body works or creating a pivot, and lastly, our angle of attack or how the club comes into the golf ball. So the first thing we want to do is set up to it correctly. Most people set up with their bottom out point to the right of center, or the club is bottoming out too far to the right because they've been told, and I've done this myself, they've been told to lean left, and when we lean left, it tilts my shoulders and makes my head go to the right. So as I swing, the club wants to bottom out. So when people set up like that and they hit a shot, I'm actually pretty darn impressed because they've got to do something with their hands just to get the face on the golf ball. So let's figure out an easier way to set up to the ball so we can just let the club fall into the ball. What we're trying to do is make sure that the club is going on down into the ball so the golf ball is placed on our swing circle correctly. It's got to be on the downward part of our swing circle. So a lot like chipping, we've got this stick, we'll call it in our middle of our stance, and I've got this golf ball. Let's say it's just left of center. So right in the middle. We want to lean left, but we want to lean left the proper way. So get your golf club up so it mimics your spine and lean left. That puts my head and my upper body a little bit more over to the left of my center. So now when I swing, I start to bottom out on the correct side of the stick. Okay? If I lean left the other way and tilt this way when I swing back, I'm bottoming out on the wrong side of the stick. So we want to make sure that we get into a position where when we swing, it bottoms out on the left side of the stick. Okay, now how does your body work? Now, we're close enough to the green where we don't want a big weight shift back and forth. That's another speed producer. We don't need a lot of speed. We're trying to hit it more accurate. We got enough club. So we just want to hit it accurate. So basically, we're working with a pivot point in your left hip or your front hip. So when you swing, this is all we're working, it's just right around your left hip. So there's no weight shift going on here. So pivot, 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 pivot. See how that works with my club? I don't get back here and then just pivot and leave the club there, and I don't get here and let the club work and my body doesn't do anything. So there's a blend. So when you swing, pivot, pivot. I'm just pivoting right around my left hip. So you can see that my right leg's just kind of sitting there. It's just kind of going along for the ride. One thing that you can do, left foot, right toe, and then make some swings, pivot, 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 pivot. Okay? Now when I put my foot back on the ground, pivot, 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 pivot. So you can see I'm just pivoting around my left hip. So if you want to feel what that feels like, just take your right leg and move forward. That's how my left hip pivots. Okay, so when I swing, I pivot through the shot. Okay, now lastly is my angle of attack. You can see with any of these swings, I'm coming in shallow. I want to use the bounce of the club. So if I hit a little bit behind it, the club will just glide into the golf ball. And if I hit it perfect, then I hit it perfect. But most people, when they swing, their angle of attack is too steep. Okay? So we want this club coming in shallow into the ball. So again, if I'm too steep, then I'm gonna hit the leading edge or I'm gonna catch it thin. I'm gonna hit it thin or fat. So now when we swing, we've got our setup, leaning left. Okay, we've got our pivot, and shallowing the club, not coming in too steep. So we put these all together, just left of center. We're gonna lean left, pivot, pivot. Okay, so what happens is the bounce goes right through the grass and you'll clean that shot up every time. So remember, good setup, use your left hip to pivot and shallow the club up, and you'll hit it good every time.